gentlemen, may I have your attention, please?
You're listening to Nosebleed Radio. Here's your host, Tucker Franklin.
Episode 2 of Nosebleed Radio is now. What's up? I'm here with the boys, Kieran Brennan.
How's it going?
Toby Todd.
What's up?
And Shane Miller.
Hey, how's it going, Roll Hawks?
We're going to go ahead and dive right into it. NFL news. So we're here. We're football guys here. We like to say we all really enjoy the sport of football. So that's what we're going to talk about here. Even in the offseason, we got some news. You know, Kieran, we talked about last week, Josh McDaniels turned down that job to the Colts, but now the Colts have a new coach.
Yeah, I'm not as excited as I was for Josh McDaniels, but I don't think I'll ever be that excited ever again. But he seems to be a good choice. Frank Reich, he already served with the Colts. That's where he got his first job as an intern. He worked with Peyton Manning, really knew Jim Irsay really well. He actually worked with Pat McAfee, but I'm excited.
I think I'd be more excited about him than Josh McDaniels, honestly. I think he's a great coach.
See, I just don't think – I think it's tough to get more excited about him because for McDaniels, I guess we kind of had a track record of what to expect, and he kind of like was more involved in calling the offensive plays for the Patriots. I guess that's all Josh McDaniels did. But for Frank Reich, sure, he was involved with like going over the playbook with Doug Peterson, but ultimately Doug Peterson made all the calls.
Yeah.
So I'm just not 100% sure what to expect. I guess we'll give it a season.
I mean, we do know already, though, he's really good with good quarterbacks, though. Even with, like, not great quarterbacks, like, look what he did with, like, Nick Foles. You know, as soon as Carson Wentz went down, I know most people, including myself, wrote the Eagles out for the playoffs. Like, I never thought they could do what they did. And they went to the Super Bowl, and Nick Foles was the MVP. Like, I'm not saying that was all Frank Reich, but, I mean, he had to have played a big part in that. As you see, he does well with good quarterbacks, like with Peyton Manning, Nick Foles, Carson Wentz, obviously. And now he's at Andrew Luck if he's healthy, honestly. I think that's a good – I think for me as a football fan, I do like to see the Colts do well because they're AFC. I don't really care being an NFC guy. But I think this is a good move for them ultimately in the end.
I think a few things that will be interesting to watch is, like you said, if you ask me, I'm going to say, yeah, Andrew Luck is going to be healthy next year, no doubt in my mind. But on the real note, I'm kind of worried about that. So it'll be interesting to see how he comes back if he is the same Andrew Luck that he was. It also will be interesting to see what they do about the running game because if you look at the stats, the Eagles relied heavily on the running game, which the Colts haven't done in a long while. So I don't think they're gonna re-sign Frank Gore.
They are in line to get Saquon Barkley, though, aren't they?
It really depends. They really need a pass rush. So I think what they do in the free agency will really set up what they do in the draft because Chris Ballard wants tough guys. He went out and he signed Jabal Sheard, Barkevious Mingo, Jonathan Hankins last year, and he really likes Ansah, who played for the Lions last year. And Reich said in his interview that he wants to build a team around Andrew Luck. So maybe that means bolstering the defense. There was some crazy stat last year that Andrew Luck was undefeated in games where the Colts defense allowed less than 20 points, which is absurd that under 20 points, that's not even asking that much. So maybe build up the defense and maybe Carlos Hyde, not a superstar running back, but he's a free agent that they could maybe go out and bolster up that run game, just make it better than what it was because I don't think Robert Turbin and Marlon Mack are going to carry it to what the Colts will need to be successful.
And I'm sorry to cut you off here, but in regards to bolstering the defense, Reich's also gotten to work right away. He hired defensive backs coach from Detroit, linebackers coach from Tampa Bay, signed a special teams coach from New England. So he's already been busy working with assistants, kind of bolstering his staff for the upcoming season. Do you have any thoughts on that?
They hired, I'm going to butcher this name. Shane, you probably know how to pronounce his name because he was the Cowboys linebackers coach. Eberflus, something like that.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
He's coming in and he's going to change the defense to a 4-3 scheme, which people were worried because he was Josh McDaniels' choice. But the more I read about it, he seems to be Chris Ballard's choice for defensive coordinator that was just going to come in with Josh McDaniels. So he's going to change it over to a 4-3 scheme, which will hopefully allow for more pressure on the quarterback with more pass rushers. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Again, I'm excited to see where it takes us. I obviously don't expect a whole lot in the first year, but I wouldn't be surprised if we have a winning record.
Just don't be like us Nebraska fans and get mad after 4 games for not winning the championship.
We talked about his such a great track record with quarterbacks and what he's done. You look, he was the Colts quarterbacks coach, offensive coordinator. That's Peyton Manning. Then he went to San Diego Chargers quarterbacks coach. I mean, love him or hate him, Phillip Rivers is a good quarterback. Then he went to the Eagles. He has Carson Wentz, Nick Foles. Now he's coming back with Andrew Luck. I mean, this dude seems to work quarterback miracles. So let's see if he can work one in Indianapolis.
See if the medical staff can.
Yeah, that's really what the big deal is. And speaking of quarterback, A.J. McCarron, he challenged the Bengals' decision to put him on the non-football injury list as a rookie in 2014. When the 5th-round pick had a sore passing shoulder, the movement that the season wouldn't count towards his free agency, and McCarron would have to stick around as Andy Dalton's backup for one more year this next year in 2018. Instead, an independent arbitrator ruled in McCarron's favor on Thursday, a decision announced by the NFL Players Association, so A.J. McCarron will become a free agent. Thoughts on that, boys?
Short trip down the road to Cleveland.
Yeah, really.
If nothing else, he's got an attractive wife. They'll bring Browns fans to games. So.
I think, honestly, this really is going to hurt the Bengals in the long run, I think. Andy Dalton, he's not elite. He's not the quarterback of the future, I'll put it that way.
Right.
A.J. McCarron, he's still young, has a lot to prove, I think. He did really well in college, and I think he's still looking to make that big push in the NFL to be a really good quarterback. I think he still has the technical skills to get there, and now they're just left without a good backup. So Andy Dalton, I don't know how many years he's got left being the position he is. I think they should start looking for another quarterback, so I think this definitely is going to hurt the Bengals.
I think Shane makes a really good point there, because now you go into the offseason, you go into summer ball, all that, and Dalton knows there's nobody behind him now.
Right.
So Dalton's going in there with no competition, nobody to push him, to remain starter. His job is secure as starting quarterback. I just think that this move from the Bengals standpoint, it would have made sense, had they won the arbitration, kept him on the team and all that. Like, the Bengals definitely would have benefited from having McCarron around. I think Andy Dalton would have benefited from having McCarron around. Yeah,
if you remember, actually, earlier this last season, the Bengals were trying to trade for him, or the Browns were trying to trade the Bengals for him, but they didn't file the paperwork in time.
Right.
Oh, yeah, total Browns move.
Yeah. Oh, that was a complete Browns move. Like, you can't get more Browns than that.
What I really think the Browns should do is they should get A.J. McCarron, not for a long-term deal. Use one of their picks, whether it be the 1 or the 4, to draft a Sam Darnold or a Baker Mayfield, and then go Carson Palmer route, and just let him sit a year, learn the system, learn how to be a successful NFL quarterback. Because like we've heard from interviews with players like Johnny Manziel, it's not you get thrust into the NFL role and you automatically know, well, this is what we did in college, so this is what we're going to do. It takes time to learn how to be a successful NFL quarterback, to learn the ropes. So I think Sam Darnold, who has all the talent of an NFL quarterback, just maybe not the best decision-making, as we see with all the interceptions and turnovers that he had. Maybe it's best to sit out a year, learn the ropes, learn how to properly break down game tape, and maybe Hugh Jackson will come back for a 4th season. Maybe they'll get a coach who can actually coach the team to more than one win
in 2 seasons. Yeah, I think that's a good call. I mean, the biggest jump, especially for quarterbacks from college to NFL, is just learning the playbook. That's the biggest or the hardest thing for anyone coming out of college going to the NFL, especially at the quarterback position. So, I mean, I think that'd be a good route for the Browns. Maybe pull them out of the 30-year slump they've been in, where they haven't really done anything.
Yeah, Toby mentioned that they don't like Andy Dalton. I was thinking Carson Palmer there for a minute. Andy Dalton doesn't have anybody looking over his shoulder, but Jeff Driscoll is now the backup, so still doesn't have really anybody to worry about. So, A.J. McCarron completed 86 of 133 passes in his 4 years in Cincinnati for 920 yards, 6 touchdowns, and 2 picks. While we're on the topic, a couple interesting things happened on Thursday. Larry Fitzgerald declared that he was going to stay with the Arizona Cardinals for this 2018 season. Sebastian Janikowski, him and the Raiders couldn't come to a deal, so he'll be a free agent this offseason.
It's kind of sad to see Janikowski go. I mean, he was always that guy who's so constant for the Raiders.
Yeah.
Like, even when they were terrible,
Legend.
he was the guy that was golden for him.
I love watching the Raiders kicker miss kicks now. I love watching Tavecchio line up. You never know if it's going to go in, miss, That brings me a lot of joy as a Chiefs fan, not seeing Seabass out there.
Yeah, but on the flip side, like Larry Fitzgerald, we talked about before we went on air that we thought that the dude is older than he really is.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But I tell you what, I think he's a sure lock for the Hall of Fame.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
Yeah.
First ballot.
Great guy. He's still a very productive NFL receiver. His 2017 stats, 109 catches, over 1,100 yards, 6 touchdowns. I mean, he's very productive at his age, and especially on an offense where the Cardinals don't really have a whole lot of other pieces. David Johnson will come back, really help the offense.
They don't have a quarterback right now, though.
Still looking for a quarterback. But
Maybe
I
AJ
think,
McCarron.
Exactly.
Yeah, there we go.
Veteran receiver definitely helps like that, And just good to see Larry Fitzgerald in the league. That's a guy you'd let date your daughter,
Yeah, he's such a good dude.
Such a stand-up guy.
If I remember right, their defense isn't like horrendous.
No, it's solid.
They got a pretty solid defense too. So, but I have never been able to not, even though I was a Rams fan for the first majority of my life, I've never been able to hate the dude.
No, he's one of those guys you can't hate.
Yeah,
he's too nice.
You got great hair.
Fantastic hair.
Can't knock on the hair. Speaking of hair, here's a good segue right here. Shaun White murdered the half pipe.
Flawless segue.
Yep, we're going to the Olympics here. We're talking medal count for Pyeongchang Olympics. Germany, has the most gold: 9 golds, 2 silvers, 4 bronze, but Norway in the lead. 6 gold, 7 silver, 5 bronze, 18. United States only has 8 medals in total. Not looking good for me.
A lot of gold.
5 golds, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of gold.
Yeah, we just win.
We're quality over quantity.
Ain't first, you're last.
Yeah.
Ricky Bobby, we have 1 silver and 2 bronze medals. So, fellas, Shaun White just murdering that half-pipe run. What'd you think?
All of his runs were, flawless, too. His semifinal run, I think, was a 98.5 or something like that.
Dude's
and
unreal.
Going into that, he had 100. His final run was a 97.5. His final run was the worst one he did. It was a 97.5. That is ridiculous, his scores there.
And he's still doing it, too, which is crazy. I can remember watching him in Vancouver. I can remember watching him in Sochi. But, he's been, I think we looked him up, at 32, right?
Yeah, he's 32. He won his first gold, I think he was, 19 years old? That was ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm 19, and look what I'm doing right now. I'm not doing anything.
You're way behind.
Short. I've come up way short.
Yeah, Olympians and college athletes are people that I'm like, I don't want to know how old they are because that just makes me feel like a failure.
Especially when they're like, oh, yeah, this guy's a true freshman, still 17 years old, making playing time. That makes me so sad.
17-year-old, you had a 17-year-old snowboarder get a gold medal in the Olympics.
Yeah.
Dude upset everybody. And then you had Chloe Kim. She had an amazing run. She was a heavy favorite going into that. So it really just comes down to the United States just murders snowboarding.
Yeah, we're so good at snowboarding. That one guy, that 17-year-old, did you see he overslept, lost his jacket, and barely made it to the run on time, and then he won gold? What a day for that.
Yeah, he came out of nowhere.
He's treating the Olympics like it's high school all over again.
That's like the Norwegians created by biathlon to train their troops, and so they win gold every year. So it's like the United States were like, we're going to slide down the hill on this piece of fiber, whatever, better than anybody else. Yeah. Because we made the sport.
Yeah. You didn't hear all the stories about how your parents got to class when it snowed. They would walk 2 miles snowboarding down the
uphill both ways.
One of the big sports that comes to mind, especially talking Winter Olympics, is hockey. And Gary Bettman, NHL commissioner, nobody likes that guy.
I hate him.
He said that if you play in the NHL, can't be playing in the Olympics. They don't want to take a break for you. So there's no NHLers in the Olympics. There are former NHLers. Now, there are guys who have played NHL games but are not active on any active rosters in the NHL right now. So that kind of decreases the quality of competition. But don't get me wrong, that OAR team is full of KHLers who are good enough to play in the NHL. For real. Yeah.
So at first I was kind of mad about this because obviously I want to see the best athletes compete in the Olympics.
Right.
But the way it's setting up, it's kind of setting up the exact same way the 1980 Olympics set up, to where we had all amateurs in our league. They had some pros in their league with their army or whatever they wanted to call it. We sucked at the beginning. We lost our first 2 prelim games. We just lost to Slovenia. We blew a 2-0 lead to lose to Slovenia. Mm-hmm. And now we got to play Russia. Oh, no, we play Slovakia and then Russia. But still, so I'm just holding on to that hopefully history repeats itself here and we go in and beat Russia and then eventually go on and win gold, because That's really the only thing I got left to hold on to for Olympic hockey right
Can't
now.
call them Russia.
And it was
OAR,
it was-
whatever.
Yeah, it was interesting looking at that too, because you look at Russia and they do have all the professional athletes on the team.
OAR.
And they OAR, exactly. Okay.
PC, we're PC, bro.
PC, yes. So they've got all those professional athletes. They were actually upset by Slovakia the same day the United States lost to Slovenia.
Yeah.
So I'm more concerned with the
Yeah.
Slavic teams.
I just hate Russia more.
Right.
Yeah.
Can't have them win.
Yeah, what do you got against?
You know, talking about hockey, you know, Predators had Eli Tolovin, one of their big prospects for the Finnish team. He scored a couple goals, got himself some points. So I'm looking my chops. He's over there in the KHL. They talk about bringing him up. We'll talk more NHL talk later, especially on the trade deadline. We're nearing the playoffs a little bit, but college basketball season is in full swing right now. And I tell you what, we haven't hit March yet, but it's pretty mad. We had a couple upsets here on Thursday.
What was it, 3 top 10 teams went down?
3 top 10 teams lost today. 4 top
Unreal.
25. Yeah, the madness before March. Yeah, so we've got 2 teams competing for one-line spots in the NCAA tournament. The latest bracketology, we've got some 1-2 seeds. Second-seeded Cincinnati, number 5 in the nation, went down to Houston. Lost. Purdue, they were on the one line still, despite 2 straight losses. They were upset at Wisconsin, a really bad Wisconsin Badgers team. Lost to them by 4. Ohio State Buckeyes were walloped today by the Penn State. The team down south, walloped by the Penn State Nittany Lions, number 8 in the country, still only a 4 seed in the tournament. I've got some opinions on that. Even as a Michigan fan, you know, Ohio State, Michigan State, you know, both of them really criminally underseeded based on this new system that we have in place. When we look at quadrant 1 wins or quadrant 2 wins, all these factors of, you know, who you beat, instead of looking at overall like resume, you know, sort of deal. I don't know how we have a team right now that's number 2 in the country according to the Associated Press, received number 1 overall votes, and is somehow a 3 seed in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't. We looked in the bracketology today. The 1 seed in that region, the Villanova Wildcats, have lost 2 of their last 3. You know, Duke Blue Devils, they've hit a little bit of a rough patch. They just murdered Virginia Tech, but that's the 2 seed. You put probably 3 of the nation's 4 or 5 best teams all in one region.
Yeah, they beat the Virginia Tech team who beat Virginia.
Virginia, yes.
No,
they did
earlier
that
this week.
Did that without Marvin Bagley, the best player in the country.
Right. You know, college
Cold
basketball is just so crazy, man. And while we're talking about that region, Mizzou's a 7 seed, RPI of 21. They've had a great win streak so far. I'm going to go ahead and put on my Tiger hat here as I talk about them for a minute. You know, they have LSU coming up, and they should be ranked next week, don't you think?
You would figure so. I mean, in the tournament right now, you look at who the committee, they put out the top 16 teams,
yeah.
You know, all the 4 seeds. The Oklahoma Sooners, this is me also coming at you as an Oklahoma State fan. Oklahoma Sooners were a 4 seed in the NCAA tournament.
Right.
They are now a 9-loss team. You know, more losses than, I would say, 95% of the teams in this field with 9 losses. They have a losing record in the Big 12. And they were a 4 seed. I don't know if it's the Trae Young phenomenon that people are latching onto. I don't know what it is. If they think the wins are so impressive that they can overlook the fact that they've lost 9 games. But just seeding in general right now, and really the end of college basketball, like the end of the regular season into the conference tournaments, is going to be extremely fascinating. See who's ranked. But seeing who's ranked obviously doesn't mean a whole lot now in terms of seeding for the tournament.
Yeah, and you know, I just pulled up Oklahoma Sooners RPI, 22, worse than Mizzou. So I don't understand how they're a 4 seed when they have a worse record than Mizzou, and Mizzou's not even ranked.
While we're putting on hats here, I'm going to put on my corn hat real quick for Nebraska.
Hey, Nebraska ball's back, baby.
Yeah, Nebraska ball is back, and I'm still pissed that people are doubting them. There's a lot of people saying they won't even get into March Madness into the tournament.
They have a better record than Mizzou and Oklahoma.
And they have 3 games left. So far left, we got Illinois, Indiana, and Penn State. I was pretty confident about all those wins. I'm a little less confident about Penn State now that they're whooping on Ohio State. But still, I think we can win all 3 of those games, and we're still over 20 wins. So that should be a ticket into the tournament.
Yeah, you got to think that. But Toby mentioned earlier with the seeding, it's just so tricky with like the Tier 1 wins and like what quadrant the wins are in and how they classify them anymore. It's so confusing. It is really a science and a formula now at this point.
It seems like this year people were projecting so much from Northwestern, teams like Minnesota and the Big Ten, that when those teams declined, fell below 500 and all that, or hovering right around 500, now those Big Ten wins don't seem to mean anything. So these the Big Ten seeds have been very undervalued. Right now, I'm looking at Joe Lunardi's bracketology. Nebraska is the second team on the first 4 out. Ahead of them on first 4 out, the St. Bonaventure Bonnies.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
19-6, playing the Atlantic 10 Conference.
I think you got to give them a playing game. Nebraska at least.
You would figure the 4 teams in the play-in games, good teams, but I'd say one thing that all 4 of these teams have that Nebraska doesn't have, notoriety.
Yeah.
The 4 teams in the last 4 in, North Carolina State, probably should be higher than 4 based on the wins that they have
I agree
this
with
season. The Texas Longhorns,
I hate them.
UCLA Bruins, and the USC Trojans.
Yeah.
So you take 3 of the biggest schools in the entire country, 3 schools that are fairly prominent in basketball, big markets that you can play to. And you've got them ahead of teams like a Nebraska team or some of these other teams that maybe are more deserving of that last spot just based on overall resume and their play as of late. But this scientific method behind the brackets, making all the brackets now, it's really ludicrous. It's almost the same debate you'd have with college football with the playoff. Should it be expanded? It's just we need more clairvoyance.
We need more stability.
More stability. We need to be able to see exactly what goes into these committees' decisions. And I think that people need to just form some common ground because every year it can't change. What decides who goes where, who's seated, who makes it, who doesn't. I think every year it should remain a constant. We shouldn't have it changing season to season because teams like Michigan State, who might have to play Duke in a Sweet 16 game, will have legitimate gripes. Say, this could be a national championship game.
Yeah.
And we're meeting them in the Sweet 16. I mean, it's...
Yeah. And that's just college basketball, Every year you have this bubble talk and everybody's upset, even with college football. That's just college sports.
Yeah. But anyway, college basketball, everybody's still going to enjoy the tournament. Everybody's still going to enjoy the conference tournaments. At the end of the day, to win the tournament, you've got to win 6 games. Every team, the winner's going to win 6 games. And if you want to be the best, it's always been said, you've got to beat the best. It doesn't matter where you play them. Doesn't matter, what steps you have to take to get there. Got to beat the best to be the best.
Yeah,
so
true.
the tournament's still going to be very, very exciting.
And I think this year, this field is wide open. There are the number 1 seeds, but all these teams are super close, and all these games are going to be super competitive. There's no one far and away team that's way better than everybody else.
Let's get into mailbag. I got our first question here. Who do you guys think are on the hot seat for upcoming NHL trade deadline? That's from Josh in Des Moines. Thanks, Josh, for sending in questions. Reminder, you can send in questions by tweeting at us at nosebleedsknow. And you can also email us at nosebleedknowledge1@gmail.com or DM any of us. Fellas, Kieran and I, we like to fancy ourselves in the hockey. Shane, you've started to swing around. Toby, Sharks fan over there. We got Devils fan. We got all kinds of fans.
Go Devs.
Kieran's a Blues fan. I like to fancy myself in Nashville with that Southern hockey. So
No such thing.
Yeah.
What a hockey town.
Yeah. Hey.
Honestly, I love
Smashville,
Smashville. Smashville is my favorite sports nickname of all time.
No, I just like to say Nashville's not a hockey town because I know it gets under Tucker's skin.
Yeah, because
and he just sits there and goes,
one of the let's get to it. Tired of talking about that. We'll talk trade deadline here. Not till February 26th in the NHL. So there's a lot of rumors flying around of teams wanting to move people. I know the Predators. They're wanting to get Rick Nash. He's a top line forward. But if you look at his stats, he's basically to the equivalent of like a Victor Arvidsson. Arvidsson's a great player, fast skater, but I just don't think that we want to give up Rick Nash price for a player who's doing Victor Arvidsson things. Canadians could move a forward, like Max Pacioretty, their captain. I wouldn't be surprised to see him be moved, and even the Senators are looking to make some moves too. They have Duchesne. They got him earlier this year, and then moved Kyle Turris to Nashville.
The Sharks, we did a few things because this isn't just the season for trade deadlines. It's also the part of the season when competitive teams will look to make changes, switch the team up a little bit, make a run for the postseason. We were looking at a guy like John Tavares, $24 million in cap space to work with the Sharks. Looking at a guy like John Tavares, but we don't want to break the bank mid-season, looking more towards the future. So one thing the Sharks did, we actually moved our best player, Brent Burns, from the defensive line. He's now on the first team forward line. It's the first game, moving him to forward. He leads the Sharks. The Sharks are not a great offensive team. Bottom half the league in goals per game. Brent Burns is a great offensive player, though. Great offensive defenseman.
Right.
Great offensive defenseman. Leads the team with 39 assists. He's in on every power play. 18th in goals per game, but 3rd in power play percentage. And a lot of that's due to him. He just scored in his first... He had 9 goals entering this game.
Yeah, breaking news
Scored,
there.
Yep, breaking news. Scored in his first game on the one line with the forwards. So I think this is just a time for, not just the Sharks, for all teams in the NHL, where they'll kind of evaluate the team, see what kind of changes can be made in-house, as well as looking for other players. There's no big names. Nash comes to mind,
right?
Especially, going to Nashville. Let's throw a party down there.
Yeah.
Bridgeport Arena.
I consider myself like a hockey novice at this point. I started getting into it like last year. So I don't have anything real substantive to add to this part, but how amazing would it be if Rick Nash went to the Nashville? Because that town already loves puns to begin with. Like,
right.
The amount of puns they come out of it would be amazing.
Smashville.
Rick Smashville. Like
their mascot is just named Nash with a G at the beginning of it, and it's a saber-tooth. Like,
saber-tooth tiger, yeah.
They love anything that has ash in it, and
yeah.
they're just like, they're down. They're down to clown.
Honestly, it might be too easy of a pun for them. Their heads might just like get too locked up and explode.
Yeah. Well, I know John Green's name's been floating around. Devils captain. Devils earlier this year traded Adam Henrique to the Ducks, and it really turned the Ducks season around. They were kind of struggling early on, but just because of injuries, as the Ducks struggled, and they're a solid team. I think the Ducks. You want to hear my hot take right here? It's gonna be Ducks Lightning. That's gonna be your Stanley Cup final.
That's
right
a hot
there.
take.
Ducks Lightning.
Breaking news.
Breaking news. Ducks Lightning. Write it down.
I agree. I think the Lightning will be in the finals. I think Nikita Kucherov, they are so good. Kucherov, Stamkos, they're going to blow through the playoffs.
I would love to see Vegas go to the championship, though, their first year and come out and win a championship. That'd be crazy.
They have guys who've been to the playoffs. They got some crazy plus minuses there. Who's that? William Karlsson up there. Plus minus 31. When you have a guy that gets on the ice, when he's on the ice, 31 goals are scored to his minus, like that's unheard of.
Yeah.
That means you're good. That's one of the true stats that I think that you can rely on to see how good a player is. And I know early on in the PK Subban and Shea Weber trade, that's what I looked at. Shea Weber's plus minus was better, but PK just adds so much more to the ice than I think Shea ever did.
It's interesting too. The Knights are they're running away with the Pacific Division. Mm-hmm. I mean, so much so they've played at least one less game than everybody in that division. They're leading by 10 points over the Sharks, who are in second. And that battle for second, I mean, if they had lost 3 of those games when they went on that insane winning streak, if they had lost 2 or 3 of those games, this would be a really tight race all the way through. Well, you got the Sharks at 68 points, the Flames at 68 points, the Ducks at 67 points, the Kings at 65 points. And 2 of those teams won't make the playoffs from the Pacific. The Knights have done such a good job of distancing themselves from the pack that at this point, any move that they make is arbitrary to the regular season. Right. It's just about building their team up to make that postseason run and probably, get a ESPN 30 for 30 about them or something, some major story about this expansion team that went on to win the whole thing. But
that's always the goal, is to get a 30 for 30 man out of you.
No, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. At least you're doing something right.
Yeah. Go ahead and move on to our next question here. Mark from Kansas City, Mo, says, how do you think the NCAA and NFL can improve the targeting rules so less players are getting ejected, but at the same time continuing to maintain safety? There's a lot of debate around this, a lot of these calls and clean hits ending in ejections. What do you fellas think?
This is honestly so complicated of an issue to talk about.
Yeah.
I mean, just coming from Nebraska's standpoint, we had a guy, Nate Gary, just won a Super Bowl with the Eagles. Not to brag, but he got kicked out of his last 2 games as a Nebraska Cornhusker for hits that, if you look at him, you cannot tell me that was a dirty hit. Like, they were clean. He just killed the guy too hard.
The hit against UCLA looked like a form tackle drill that you do, warming up for games.
It was like a perfect tackle. Like, it wasn't anything worth ejecting about. He just hit him too hard was the issue. But these rules, I think, are making the position of safety and even cornerback the hardest positions to play in the NFL because you have to hit a guy perfect.
It's making defense just hard in general.
Yeah.
You have to hit a guy perfect in order to not get kicked out of the game, at the college level at least.
Like, we saw in the Jacksonville Patriots game, the hit on Rob Gronkowski was that Miles Jack. Who was that hit him?
Some safety.
Very church.
Very
church.
But he went after his head when, like, there's no good way to tackle Rob Gronkowski.
No.
Like, you go after his legs, you could end his career.
Yeah, you could get a concussion.
Well, I mean, as a Patriots fan, one hit comes to mind when T.J. Ward was with the Cleveland Browns. There was a hit, injured Gronk for the entire season because he went low, hit him on his knees. And Gronk is too big of a guy for you to hit,
especially as a cornerback.
Yeah, you cannot. You hit him in the chest, he'll bounce off you.
Yeah, you're dead.
That's like there has to be some give and take because you want to keep players safe.
Yes, obviously.
But you also want the game to remain, yes, exciting. You love the big hits. Everybody was raving about the big hit from Malcolm Jenkins on Brandon Cooks and like the Super Bowl.
That same hit could get it called for ejection, though.
That same hit, if Brandon Cooks hadn't had the ball, Malcolm Jenkins would have been ejected from the Super Bowl.
Easily, yeah.
Which is interesting because you say, because he doesn't know this hit is coming, this somehow makes the hit worse than, if he's got the ball and the same hit occurs. So there's a lot of rules in the NFL that are really just like up for debate amongst officials. It's all officials' discretion. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what makes the game so difficult sometimes is that
it's like with the catch. No one knows what a catch is anymore because the rules change like every year. The rules for what's targeting and what's not targeting, what's unnecessary roughness, this seems to change every year based on the official's discretion.
Right.
And like you guys were said earlier, you have to make a perfect tackle as a DB, as safety. They're going full speed, catching a pass in stride. You're going full speed the opposite direction. You can't go too low because A, you'll miss if you drop your head, or B, you could take out their knees. Yeah, Marcus Williams. Look what happened there. Like, you have to be perfect every single play, and that's making that position almost impossible.
People are trying to make this sport safe when they need to realize that it is not a safe sport. It never has been. It never will be. Because you go after their head, boom, concussion.
Yeah.
But then we see, like, you go after their legs. Lattimore, that gruesome tackle when he was with South Carolina, he was at stud running back.
Yeah.
They tackled him, hit his knee in like 12 different directions, tore every ligament there, and basically took away what could have been a promising NFL career and threw it out the window. So, like, I've heard some NFL players would like hit to the head instead of the hit to the knees or the legs because if they can save their legs, they can play several more years.
And I think this talk would be a lot easier if we just realized, like Kieran said, that this is not going to be safe.
No, you can't make football safe
You
unless
can't.
you stop playing football.
And this the window for hits is just getting smaller and smaller, where you basically have to hit him in the numbers. And you have a shifty guy like, Saquon, he's coming into the NFL. You can't hit him in the numbers.
No.
So I don't think that there's a clear-cut answer for this. I think the answer is people fans have to realize it's not going to be safe.
No, it's they've signed up for this. They have to realize that too. It's not a safe game when they sign up. That's why so many guys. The average career in the NFL is about 3 years.
Yeah.
Like they realize, it's not a safe game. They got to get out. That's fine if that's what they want to do, but that's what they signed up for.
Yeah, we'll wrap up with some NBA talk here. Our final question on mailbag: with LeBron being a free agent next year, is it a smart move to stay in Cleveland or look somewhere else? Thank you to Tom in Manhattan, Kansas, for sending us that question.
I'd like to see where the season plays out.
Yeah.
I mean, you listen to anything right now, anybody who's talking about the NBA, and they'll bring up how much better the Cavs are. Like, it's been 2 games.
Yeah.
It's been 2 games, but what a great 2 games it's been for this new look Cavs team. And it's like Nick Wright said on Undisputed. Nick Wright said, you give me LeBron James and 4 guys who are happy to be playing basketball, and I'll show you a winner.
That's been LeBron James' issue for the last few years, though. Is he gets on teams with guys like Kyrie who were great players, but they don't want to play with LeBron.
Yeah.
And that's why they leave, and that's why they don't do good in Cleveland. Right now, he's got, like you said, 4 guys who want to play basketball. They want to play with LeBron.
Exactly. You've got 4 guys now who know that they're not LeBron James.
No,
What
exactly.
you had on the Cavs was you had a bunch of guys who were number ones and had been their whole life the best player on their team. No matter where they were, with D. Rose, Wade, Caleb, all those guys. And it's hard to imagine him leaving Cleveland again, given what happened, when he went to Miami with Cleveland. The difference is this time he brought a championship to Cleveland, just like he said he would.
I agree.
And I don't think Cavs fans would be nearly as mad at this point in his career. And everybody's talking about possible landing spot, Los Angeles.
Big one, yeah.
Everybody loves that.
There's no way he goes to the West Coast.
You know,
I don't
don't
think so.
think?
I don't think he goes to the
I
Western
agree.
Conference.
I do not think
There's
you
no
go-
way
if
he
you're
goes.
LeBron James, why go to the Western Conference? You're just making it harder on yourself.
Right.
You're not playing for more championships. You know, you're essentially playing your NBA championship in the Western Conference Finals, and nobody gives you the benefit of the doubt losing in the Western Conference Finals.
Right, exactly.
You know, nobody remembers conference finals losers.
Except the Colts.
Except the Colts. They'll hang that banner.
Yes, sir. I think one destination, if he is going to leave, that makes a lot of sense for LeBron James. The New York Knicks. The Knicks are not a very good team. They have one really good player, Kristaps Porzingis. They've got some role players that can do a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
But New York is a big market. Guys want to play basketball with LeBron. Maybe not the number one guys, but guys that can help contribute to winning, the Eastern Conference, guys who want to play in the NBA championship. So you team LeBron up with a guy like Kristaps in the mecca of basketball, Madison Square Garden in New York, and you're still basically just running through the Eastern Conference like you have for the last 8 years.
Yeah.
You have the Celtics to worry about. You have the Raptors to worry about. And that's almost it in the East.
And you mentioned Nick Wright earlier. I just something that Nick Wright said when we were watching that show together, actually. Nick Wright said if you want a percentage, whatever percent the Cavs are to win the championship, that's what percent he is to stay. And I think that he's totally right. If the Cavs go on and they win a championship, I think he stays just for the sake of just to end his career there.
I do like what you said though. Him going to the Knicks though, that would be incredible to watch him and Kristaps together. Kristaps is such a great athlete. Me and Toby were talking about this earlier. He's one of those guys like you kind of forget how tall he is because of how well he can move. You know, he's not like one of those guys who just stands underneath the hoop and makes 1-foot shots all game. Like he's taking shots from around the barrier as well.
It's wild to play with an athletic 7-footer. I mean, like it would almost be the same as putting LeBron James on that like old Orlando Magic team in 2009, having them play against the Lakers.
Oh yeah,
in the NBA Finals, like with the Dwight Howard type shooters around him, like
that's another guy you forget how tall he is because of how good he can move.
Dwight Howard is a tremendous athlete.
Anything else?
I miss football.
Well, first Sunday without football.
Yeah,
how'd it feel?
It was rough. I did not like it.
I didn't know what to do.
I don't know what to do. Like you wake up that Sunday and you're like, all right, well I'll make it to like 11 o'clock when like pregame stuff starts happening, and then you turn on the TV and it's just like nothing. Like,
this feels like you should go to church all day.
Yeah, I feel like a piece of crap because I just sit there and don't do anything.
I know.
Never been more excited for the spring league though.
Yeah, Johnny
Super
Manziel is
pumped for
back.
the spring league, baby.
Yeah,
Sunday programming is the worst, and we forget about that during football season.
Yeah, because we have football.
We turn it on and we're like, oh, I guess I can watch bowling until
for
about
20 minutes until football.
And then until I'm like, oh, wait, this is bowling.
Yeah.
So.
The only sports thing you can watch is you watch Duke beat Georgia Tech by 85 points. And you're like, all right. You turn it off after the first half. You come back and you're like, oh, Georgia Tech's up to 30 points now with 2 minutes left. This is awesome.
Running triple option or
triple option basketball. That's how they run it.
3-man weave.
That's a wrap for episode 2. I'm Tucker Franklin. For the boys, Kieran, Brennan, Toby Todd, Shane Miller. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure you follow us on social media at Nosebleeds Know on Twitter. Like us on Facebook, Nosebleed Knowledge. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast. Tell your friends about it. Leave a rating and leave a review. Peace.